Hi, Bree.
Hi, what's up?
I'm so happy you're here today.
Too.
Graduation is soon.
I know.
Can you believe it?
No, I can't. The 2 years went by like the blink of an eye. Did you see me just try to demonstrate a blink of an eye there
Yes.
too?
I feel like it was just yesterday that you and I were meeting, and
know.
I was coming to you with anxiety of like what to do and how to handle the second year, and here you are just a few weeks from graduation.
Yeah, it is a wild feeling, but sure enough, you're going to be in the same exact position and you're going to crush it next year and taking over the podcast. And I'm so excited for you. It's going to be a great experience for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to take over the podcast with Mari and Taiwo and reflecting back on, your year here at Owen, but also with the podcast. What are some highlights that you have or some things that really like bring a smile to your face?
Yeah, no, I think that this has been a guinea pig year. It has been like, especially and I mean that in the sense of starting this podcast, like it's been such a big learning experience where I think that myself, Reed and Jacob, working with the LDP team, had a lot of kinks to try to work out together to get this like up and running and working in a cadence that we enjoyed, figuring out what the balance of working on this on a weekly basis was. But ultimately, reflecting back, I mean, my favorite parts of this experience in particular is working with Reed and Jacob. The two of them are just fabulous, wonderful people who both encourage me to be a better person and a harder working person and a better podcast host. So much so that like the three of us are actually deciding to explore starting a business together, like and continuing it past graduation, which is hilarious. But all of that knowledge of us three working together and like enjoying that experience did come from this podcast. So there's a lot that I'm taking away with me from this experience.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that the three of you were such pioneers in this and able to invent it to this capacity is incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
What leadership takeaways do you have from this? We're having worked with Reed and Jacob. Just from the three of you, like how are you able to navigate what you think of leadership and use that in a way that really brought the group together and ensured you guys were being equitable with ideas and things like that?
Yeah. I think that the biggest lessons that I've taken away from leadership was definitely not so much working with the other co-hosts, but in the conversations with the alumni themselves. I mean, all of them come from a variety of different backgrounds, are very unique in and of themselves. And I think that some of the biggest lessons are just like it takes so many different shapes and forms, and you have to own what leadership is to you. And there's no one size fits all. There's no one definition that's going to pertain to a wider majority of people. It is going through that iterative process of experience and putting yourself in leadership positions to like hone what your style is and hone the type of leader that you do want to become one day. And that's just, no one is ever going to tell you what leadership is to you. It's really up to you to figure it out for yourself. And I think that that's something that I'm going to carry with me from those conversations outside of Owen and like into my future career is, okay, it's on me to be able to deter what kind of leadership style I'm gonna be and what kind of leader I want to be.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing that you've been able to interview so many amazing alumni and really collect so many different points of views and nuggets of information in regards to leadership, which I think is such a great opportunity to be able to host the podcast. Like, I guess reflecting back on you having, come into Owen almost 2 years ago, and now that you're leaving, like having had those conversations with them, like, do you see a difference in how you view leadership?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the biggest point of differentiation between coming into Owen and leaving is what it means to be like a servant leader, right? Like you can't just be deemed a manager and bark orders at your team. There's a big difference between like you being willing to be on the front lines with them or do the work that you're asking your team to do. And I think that theme resonated throughout a lot of the conversations that I was having. Also, the fact that sometimes it's okay to say that you don't know. I think the best examples of leadership and a lot of the stories that I've heard from our alumni are stories where they were able to navigate a space of ambiguity, but by being very transparent and honest with the team, the amount of ambiguity that existed, like it takes like a really strong leader, I think, to be presented with like a series of questions or a decision to make, like having to manage under that uncertainty and to come to the team and say like, hey, listen, guys, there are a few more things that we need to either go and gather the information that is out there, or we need to operate under our best set of assumptions. But here is the difference between what makes this a very good decision and where we're sitting at right now. And I think that being able to like have that transparency with your team when you're not sure, you don't know, is like the perfect balance to have as a leader, because you're not, I mean, we're all human, you're not expected to be perfect, but being honest about that and not trying to put on like a stonewall face in front of everybody is impressive. And I think it's a harder thing to do than it's harder said than done.
I agree with you. I think transparency is hard for some to lean into and actually do, particularly as a leader, right? Sometimes you'll have to like look a certain way as a leader. So I can understand that. Have you implemented or had the opportunity to implement any of these learnings or teachings throughout your time at Owen, like any group projects or being on clubs, positions of leadership?
Yeah. I think that this year has been the year where I've assumed a lot of those leadership roles on campus. Last year, I mean, as you experienced this year, was like really heavily focused on recruiting, making sure that summer internship was locked in. And then Mod 3 started transitioning into like, okay, what do those extracurriculars look like? And I think that that is the time period where a lot of the second years start handing off those responsibilities, which is it's exciting for both parties, right? Like everybody that's the mod where everybody gets to be involved. But this year I was a peer coach, a case coach, a comms fellow, this podcast. I helped out with, starting this podcast and whatnot, and I was a TA for a few classes. So definitely was in like a role of being a leader on campus. I think that one of the biggest, something that I'll like say in your future roles of being a leader for the rest of the remaining of this year and next year is like that approachability aspect. I think that that's something that Owen does really beautifully, is cultivate the community feeling, and that it is your turn. It's your turn to turn around to your first years and say, all right, guys, how do we get you ready? How can we work together to make sure that you are in the best possible position that you can be for success? And I think that that was an expectation that was put on our shoulders when our second years were graduating. And now it is, if we haven't said it enough, like we can say it again, it's your turn to help out now. And that's something that I'm very proud of in Owen, is that expectation. And I know we always say like, it's collaborative and not cutthroat. But if you talk to other people from other like very prestigious, very incredible like business schools and other programs, you'll hear undertones of that cutthroatness throughout their experiences, although individuals might not say that necessarily outright, where Owen, it is like, here's what you got to do to get where you want to be. And I don't think that exists everywhere. So I'm going to miss Owen and that community feeling as I graduate into the real world.
And Owen's going to miss you.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that.
Yes, your colorful, vibrant attitude.
Oh,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you feel like that because of this community that we've created, maybe it has attributed to our like newfound success? We're now number 18 on the USA News MBA ranking.
Yeah, I absolutely do. Well, here's the thing about smaller schools too, right? It's like, yes, we are like 180 in a class, I think.
More, yeah.
But you have to consider, like, although when we graduate our classes, our alumni base isn't as vast, it is deep. Like, name a time when you reached out to an alumni on LinkedIn and didn't get a response. Frankly, I can't. There is always an extending hand that is reaching back and lifting others up. And I think that that is the benefit of having a close-knit community that people are really starting to feel, especially like the job market. It's tough. It's hard out there. We are on a macroeconomic scale. We're just operating in a lot of uncertainty. A lot of people don't know what's going to happen like on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis in the current state of the economy and the environment. But that is why it's so much more beneficial to be part of something that's super close-knit is because like you do have those people to lean on, and you've cultivated deep relationships over time because there's not as many of us, right? Like I know everybody in my class. You probably know everybody in your class. I know the majority of people in your class. And the same can't be said for a lot of other schools out there. So it doesn't surprise me at all that Owen is finally just getting the recognition that I think it deserves.
Yes. I'm really happy about the recognition that it finally deserves. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
And I do agree. Every time I've reached out to somebody on LinkedIn, they always respond.
Yeah.
Always.
Yes. That's awesome.
Which is amazing. Testament to our
and there are some cool alumni out there too.
I agree.
I mean, hell, just trying to get this podcast up and off the ground. All the alumni that are currently waiting for us to reach out to them, for us to pull them onto here, for us to have them share their story with us on here is astounding. The list is what, 200 Excel rows long? Like people are willing to be involved and stay involved, and that's special.
I think so. I agree. Super special, and something that we're definitely trying to take advantage of and like reach out that arm as well by having created the podcast and continuing it.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So for your summer internship at EY Parthenon, which amazing, because you're going back for full time, and I'm assuming that leadership was so great that you felt this pull to want to return, right? I feel like there's something really resonates with people when they have great leaders or they're under great leadership. I guess what are some takeaways from the leaders that you've had throughout the summer, or what really stuck out to you that you're like, wow, this makes me really want to be here. I feel a certain connection to the community here.
Yeah. I'll actually go back to even before I started my summer internship. I was introduced to EY Parthenon through their Women in Networking. It's called their WIN network. And there was an event that was out in Chicago last year, like in the October timeframe, where I went out and got to sit down and meet some of the partners that are in their Women in Networking network, where we got to be introduced to a bunch of different industries, a bunch of different senior directors and partners that were there. And that is where I was just blown away. I left that weekend with like a few really fantastic contacts, one of which was such an advocate for me. Her name was Caitlin. She was just the most wonderful person who I resonated deeply with. We just connected. And when you meet somebody for the first time and your first initial conversations with them are just like a lock and click. It's easy, it's flowing, it's interesting. It felt like I was being myself. It felt like she was bringing herself to the table. And I think that leaving that experience, continuing the conversations through like the rest of recruiting and even into summer, I was like, wow, if these women are advocating for me, are in my corner, are helping me cultivate my skills, even before I even started the internship, I found something special. That definitely rang true when I was out there in Chicago. I worked underneath a partner. Her name is Janice, within like the transaction strategies and execution team. So I was on an M&A deal where we were representing the seller, and a buyer was just carving out a portion of the seller's business and acquiring it throughout like the upcoming week. So it was a transaction in summary. And the way that Janice had managed the rest of her team, I think that your brand, to take a step back, is what people are saying about you when you're not in the room, right? What other people have to say to describe you and the way that you work, the way that you handle your relationships, the way that you manage your projects. And across the board, a unanimous feeling about Janice was that she was just the best. She was the best. She had the utmost respect from every single one of her team members, and the way that she listened to the rest of her team, but also was very stern on the actions that needed to be taken on not only a daily basis, but a weekly basis, were understood by everyone. There was no confusion to keep the project on the trajectory that it needed to move in order to be successful, was incredible. And I think that there are so many different moving parts to projects, especially in management consulting, that you have to keep track of. And for a partner like her to be able to keep her finger on the pulse in every respect, and all of these different cross-functional teams that were coming together to report underneath her, to watch that happen and watch like what the direction that everybody was so willing to move very swiftly on with just like one guiding piece of advice from her was astounding. I looked at her and I was like, yeah, that's it. That's who I want to be one day. And it's what talking about being a leader, like, I think that there is her being in that leadership position. The biggest thing that I took away from her style was that mutual respect, but the buck stops with her. And I think that everybody understood that was you can bring your thoughts to the table and she wants to hear the information. She wants like a very free flowing feel of that information because it's important then to make the best decisions based on what the team is bringing to her. But when she made a decision on the direction that we were moving in, there was an understanding that wouldn't have trusted anybody else with making that decision except her. And I think that that is the type of leader that I would want to be one day, where my team feels very comfortable coming to me with concerns, but that they understand that I'm gonna listen and that their ideas are always welcomed and that I'll incorporate that always when making the decision on where to move next.
She sounds like a powerful
Oh,
individual.
yeah, for sure, for sure. We like had a small one-on-one at the end of the summer and I was like, oh my God. But that's amazing. And I can't wait to go back and like maintain that relationship and hopefully, knock on wood, work on one of her teams again.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'll keep my fingers crossed for you.
Thank you.
It's great that you have that mentor and sponsorship though through her and others throughout the UI Barcelona.
Yeah. I think that it's a special environment when you come across women that have more experience than you in the industry and that turn around and raise others up. And it doesn't have to be just women, right? Like I think it goes for all professionals across the board, but there is really something special about those people who decide to lift others up along with them. And I think that obviously like we can say that in this situation and say like, that's what all leaders should do, but it's few and far between in reality. And when push comes to shove and days get exorbitantly busy and you have a million different priorities that you're juggling, I think it is the people that make time, that carve out the time out of their day to do that for younger professionals, that those are special people. And they're ones that I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah, as do I. Do you have any advice for first years like myself entering their internship season? You'll be graduating. Us in a few weeks are going to start our internship, which is like very exciting and mixed with a bunch of other emotions.
Yeah.
But in regards to like leadership and finding somebody, because something I heard was like this intersectionality between brand and leadership. So is there any like advice or anything that first years should keep in mind when they're going into their internship?
First and foremost is like you're not expected to know everything. Like you're not expected to be the expert, but you are expected to be the sponge. What I mean by that is like, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like it's okay to raise your hand and take a swing at something and fail fast and come to the table with what you have in order to keep pushing the project or whatever you're working on along. That is one thing that I struggled with a little bit because I didn't want to look like a fool or I didn't want to look like I didn't know what I was doing. But raising your hand and showing that ambition and that curiosity is the unteachables, and making the small mistakes that you can iterate on and learn fast are the teachables. So just like show that you have those unteachable characteristics that like people want as a part of their team, and don't worry too much about making mistakes, so long as like you're fixing them fast and you're getting them taken care of and you're not going to make the same mistake twice too. And you have to understand that like you're joining a highly functioning, well operating team already. So find the ways that you can plug into their momentum and their cadence without slowing them down too much, right? Try to be like the time saver over the time sucker. Like be strategic in the ways that you ask them to get coffee or get lunch. Go to the happy hour events that are already happening, that like you don't have to ask somebody else for like another night of their week to connect with you. Like take advantage of the resources that are at your disposal and try to like stay away from being that person that is not being cognizant of like the schedules that those people are already trying to keep. And connect with like as many people as you can, right? Like you're there. I understand that you're there and you're going to do the best possible job. You're going to crush it. You're going to do the best possible job. They're obviously going to love you, but it's a two-way street too. Like you have to see how that culture fits for you. And if that's a place that gives you energy when you're going or absolutely drains you. I think that that's a really good tell whether or not you like the culture of a company. It's just like how you feel at the end of a Friday. Are we jazzed about what we accomplished that week, or can we not wait to get home, and are we like dreading work on a Sunday night when we're waking up for the next day? You know what I mean? Just like journal about it. Keep your finger on the pulse. Like pay attention to the way that you're feeling, because at the end of the day, like for my first years, this is just an internship. It really is not like the end all be all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great way for you to get real world experience for what your life may or may not look like post graduation. And if it's something that doesn't make you happy, be the first to pivot. Do not stay within like a certain industry or company because you think that that's what's expected of you. You're expected to build your life and design your life the way that you want it designed for yourself. So be intentional about that. You know, like a lot of us came back to school to make a hard pivot or go into something else.
Yes.
It's okay if like those decisions or like the assumption that you're making of what you're going to do after business school isn't actually what you're going to be doing. Like, don't be afraid if that is the case, or if your trajectory changes course. Sometimes that's in a lot of my alumni conversations, like that happened to a lot of them too. And for the most part, it was such a blessing in disguise. So I would just say that if it doesn't work out the way that you always wanted it to work out, or the way that you intended to work out, that's okay. Don't be discouraged.
That's a good reminder, actually, because sometimes we, and I'll say even myself, can think too much in this box and like forget that this is just like a blip in the timeline of the MBA program. And this is great real world experience, and to see if we both like each other.
Yeah, 100%. That's something that you should pay attention to it.
Yes, I agree. And I think everything you had listed before in terms of like things to keep in mind, things to do, are things that I feel great leadership would admire, right? Not be a time sucker, but actually contribute to time, things of that nature.
Yeah. And also just like, in addition to that, let your personality come out a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like they want to know you. They want to know who you are. What are your interests? What do you like? So show that side to your team as well. You should try to be as, and I know that there is a very fine balance between being like a chameleon who can adapt to situations quickly and operate under those conditions, and your true authentic self, right? Like what you care about, what you want, what you believe in, what your values are. And I know we always all the time hear a lot of messaging about like how important it is to bring your authentic self to the table. I'm not disagreeing with that. I think that that is really important. But I think in internship situation, we only have so much time to try to prove our value and that we can contribute to the team. And I think that it is easy to fall into that like chameleon mode where it's like, I am adapting to your operating standards. Like I am adapting to the expectations of your team. Do that, be aware of where you can be efficient and start contributing, but don't be afraid in the moments that you have the opportunity to say like, all right, guys, this is who I am. This is my personality.
Yes.
However you choose to do that, you know, let that come through a little bit too.
And through your alumni conversations, have you seen that to be true? Like, have you seen that they are the leader they are because they show their personality?
Yeah, I think so. I think pretty much like across the board, everybody is in the positions that they are and has had the success that they've had by bringing their personality to the table.
I think it really says something when you can like kind of break that shield or mold and like really, yes, show your personality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And for our last question, what kind of leader do you want to be known as you leave Owen? I'm sure that will change over time, but for now.
Yeah, that is a hard question. I think I would want to be, or do you mean like for my classmates? Like,
Yeah, classmates.
yeah.
Yeah. Classmates or even where you see yourself in the next few months. You know, I know you'll enter and how you'll enter, but eventually you'll be taking on a more senior role as months and years go by.
Yeah. Well, through like the past mod or two, I mean, I'm taking classes now on like managerial decision making and managing under uncertainty, and there's like a very common thread between the importance of information gathering and making the right decisions. And I want to be the leader that is approachable, but respected. I want everybody to feel super comfortable coming to me, just like Janice did, with their ideas, their thoughts, what they're seeing in the data, what they believe in the marketplace to be true, and to hear like that collective information, but to be understood as the final decision maker. Like the buck will stop with me. And I think that there's an element of respect and appreciation of the value that I can bring to the table in order to make those decisions that I also would want to be well known. I would want to be trusted with making those big decisions at the end of the day. So approachable, but respected is how I want to be known as a leader.
I already see you as that. Like, yeah, I love
Well, thank you.
Yes, you already have that aura and that air about you. So I agree.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you. And you're gonna do great. I mean,
Thank
this
you.
podcast is so much fun. You're gonna get to meet so many wonderful, incredible alumni who are so willing to come to the table, share their stories, and like be a part of your network still.
Yeah.
I keep in touch with the alumni that I've interviewed
That's so
over this
cool.
past year, and they're phenomenal across the board. Just wonderful people that are very interesting and have just these wild, very interesting stories about how they have cultivated and designed their lives outside of Owen. So fantastic people to learn from. I can't wait for you to meet some of the people that you're going to be chatting to.
Me and you both. Well, thank you for you again. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you too.
Thank you.